A bullied Corsican boy would become Emperor of France. Here is how he rose. Born in 1769, mocked for his accent, he graduated artillery officer at 16. Then the revolution erupted, and merit suddenly mattered more than birth. At Toulon in 1793, his cannon placed on the heights drove the British fleet out. France's youngest general at 24. France 1799. A decade of revolution leaves a nation exhausted and ripe for a strong man. On 18th Brumaire, Napoleon Bonaparte topples the failing Directory and crowns himself First Consul. I read 1,000 pages a day, 18 hours of work. France must see a ruler who never sleeps, who earns the throne he has not yet named. France 1800, a nation that had declared war on its own faith. The revolution had closed churches and exiled priests. Napoleon, the new First Consul, saw a wasteland and an opportunity to win back a Catholic majority cut off from 1,000 years of faith. I do not see in religion the mystery of the incarnation, but the mystery of the social order. One nation, hundreds of laws. Napoleon decided to write just one. Before 1804, France was a tangle of Roman law, local custom, and feudal privilege. A merchant crossing the country crossed through entirely different rules. Napoleon, in power since 1799, wanted clear laws every citizen could understand. I want the law written plainly, so a farmer understands it as well as any lawyer. The clearer the words, the longer they last. A revolution executed its king. 5 years later, it crowned an emperor. In November 1799, General Napoleon Bonaparte seized power, naming himself First Consul. He restored order, reorganized law, made peace with the church. By 1802, he was consul for life. The Republic was becoming a throne. Royalist plots and an assassination attempt convinced his allies the regime needed permanence. A hereditary empire, they argued, would shield the revolution's gains and survive any single man's death. One fleet stood between Napoleon and the conquest of Britain. By 1805, Napoleon ruled Europe, but the English Channel defied him. To invade Britain, he needed the sea. His combined Franco-Spanish fleet, 33 ships strong, was sent to break Britain's blockade. Against them, 27 British ships under Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson. Fewer in number, but faster gunners, with crews that fired twice as quickly as the enemy. December 1805. 3 emperors, 1 battlefield, 1 trap waiting to spring. Austria and Russia fielded 85,000 men. Napoleon had 73. So he chose to seem weak, abandoning the high Pratzen heights and begging for peace. Let them take the heights. While they march down to crush my right, I will tear open their center. Napoleon could not invade Britain, so he tried to starve it. After Trafalgar in 1805, his navy was broken. The Berlin Decree of 1806 became his new weapon. Cut Britain off from all of Europe. The Milan Decree tightened the noose, trapping neutral merchants between French seizure and British capture. If I cannot reach England with my armies, I will close every port of the continent against her trade. In a single day, the army of Frederick the Great simply ceases to exist. October 1806. Prussia dares to challenge Napoleon, trusting in old victories. He answers with speed they cannot imagine, splitting his corps to converge and outflank them before a shot is fired. While their generals argue over maps, my soldiers are already behind them. The campaign is won before the battle begins. Napoleon ruled Europe, yet one small kingdom defied him, and broke his armies. In 1807, Portugal refused his blockade against Britain. Napoleon marched French troops across Allied Spain to invade. But he wanted more. He occupied Spanish fortresses, lured the royal family to France, and seized the throne itself. On May 2, 1808, Madrid exploded. Ordinary people armed with knives and scissors attacked French soldiers in the streets. (1809). For the first time in a decade, Napoleon has tasted defeat. At Aspern-Essling, Archduke Charles of Austria broke the legend, hurling the emperor back across the swollen Danube. For 6 weeks, Napoleon plans his revenge. They believe me beaten? Let them. I will return with 200,000 men and a wall of guns. An emperor sacrifices love to save a dynasty. By 1809, Josephine cannot give Napoleon an heir. The Senate presses. The empire needs a successor. On December 15th, husband and wife dissolve their marriage, both weeping openly. Napoleon turns to his oldest enemy, Marie-Louise, 18, daughter of Austria's Emperor Francis. Marrying a Habsburg would legitimize his upstart throne and bind Vienna to peace. In 1812, the master of Europe gambled everything on the Russian frontier. Over 600,000 men crossed into Russia. Tsar Alexander refused open battle. Russian armies retreated, burning towns, poisoning wells, leaving only wasteland behind. At Borodino, 70,000 fell in a single day. Napoleon took Moscow and found it abandoned, then swallowed by flames. (1813). The conqueror of Europe is bleeding, and all his enemies smell it. The Russian disaster cost 600,000 men. Prussia, Russia, Austria, Sweden unite. Over 500,000 troops now close on one shrinking French army. They flee when I appear and strike where I am not. I must force one great battle and break this ring at Leipzig. The man who conquered Europe now feared for his life among his own people. By early 1814, the empire was collapsing. After the disaster at Leipzig, the Sixth Coalition marched on France. On March 31st, Allied armies entered Paris. The city surrendered. Napoleon was not there. The army will not march. Sire, the soldiers obey their generals no longer. France itself is exhausted. March 1815, Europe exhales. Then the exile escapes his island. With 1,000 men, Napoleon lands and marches north. At every village, the soldiers sent to arrest him kneel instead. If any of you wishes to kill his emperor, here I am. June 1815. One muddy field will end an empire that ruled Europe. Escape from Elba, Napoleon reclaims France without a shot. But Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia form the Seventh Coalition. He must strike first, splitting Wellington from Blucher before their armies unite. Strike fast. Defeat them one by one before their numbers crush us. The Guard has never tasted defeat. Today they decide the fate of France. After Waterloo, the Allies chose a prison no one could escape. On October 15, 1815, Napoleon reached the island aboard HMS Northumberland. 4,000 miles from Europe, he would live out his days at Longwood House. Damp, isolated, and watched by every British eye. I once ruled Europe from the palaces of Paris. Now they reduced me to a jailer's prisoner on a rock in the sea.